I'm Nigel Henbest and I'm an astronaut, a future astronaut. I'm signed up with Virgin Galactic to go into space in a couple of years' time. I'll be one of the first 1,000 people to leave planet Earth, to go out into space, to float around in the immensity of the cosmos. It's a dream of a lifetime come true. I never thought I'd be able to travel into space, but Richard Branson has set up Virgin Galactic, the chance for people to go into space, to buy a ticket and travel beyond the Earth's atmosphere. So I seized the chance to get a flight and be up there. When I was a kid, I remember the Apollo 11 astronauts landing on the moon, and that was such an adventure to break away from planet Earth.
We have a liftoff on Apollo 11.
I was interested in astronomy from an earlier time. I knew my way around the stars. I had my own telescope, and the thought that you couldn't just look at the stars, but you could go up into space was something I never thought I'd achieve in my lifetime. I got a book off my dad's bookshelf, learnt my way around the constellations in the sky, the Great Bear, Orion, Taurus and so on, and then I got to see things like the rings of Saturn and clusters of stars deep in space. I was hooked from that point onwards. This is a little travel guide of my trip into space. All the words are on the outside. Inside we can see exactly what's going to happen, this great experience of travelling off planet Earth. Here we have our trip on the mothership, the plane that takes us up to 50,000 feet. We light up the rocket engine and zoom up. Acceleration of 3 Gs, pushing us back in our seats as we travel up into space. Our spaceship is going to be a rather larger version of the prototype shown here in its hangar, but the principle is the same. And here we've blasted off from our mother plane down here. You can see she's flying back to base on her own. We've lit our rocket engines and we are shooting upwards into space. This is the pilot's eye view. Looking down between his feet, you can see the Earth outside there. The controls, we blast upwards above a height of 100 kilometres, which is where space officially begins. Once we're there, the engine's cut off and we're weightless. We float around, we can do gymnastics, look at the view, hang upside down, something we can never achieve on the Earth. We just have to be a bit careful with anything which is loose, like our cameras, as they float around in these conditions. This is astronaut number 1, Sir Richard Branson himself. He's flying on the first passenger flight with his family. I'm number 249 in the queue, so I should be going up about a year later than the Pioneer. The view from the window. This is going to be absolutely stunning. The view from space of our fragile blue planet Earth stretched out underneath. And of course there's no up or down in space. I can't say which way I'll be when I'm looking down over that view, but all too soon it'll be over. We come back down into the atmosphere. Our little space plane glides down to land back on the runway at Spaceport America, where we started after about 3 hours from takeoff to landing. Talking to some of my fellow astronauts, a lot of them are not scientists or astronomers at all. They are adventurers. They've been across the Sahara Desert, they've been in the rainforests of South America, they've climbed to the top of Mount Everest. Now they're looking for the ultimate thrill. And yes, some of that resonates with me, but the main thing for me is the feeling of being out in space. To put that into context, there have been about 500 people have gone into space so far, mainly Americans and Russians, some Chinese and other nations as well. With Virgin Galactic, they've signed up over 500 astronauts, future astronauts already. So by the time I go into space, I should be within the first 1,000 people ever to travel off the surface of planet Earth. And I think about the fact there are 7 billion people on the Earth. Maybe in the whole history of the Earth, there have been 100 billion people who've ever lived on the Earth. And out of all those people, I'll be one of just the first 1,000 to break free from our planet and head out into space. The trip that I'll be making is just into near space around the Earth. If you go to the space station, you go further out, and of course the Apollo astronauts went to the moon. I think we could travel to Mars. Certainly the technology is there. it can be done, and I very much hope that even leaving politics aside, we will be there, because that mission has got to be international. It's so big and so expensive, one nation can't do it on its own. So I hope very much to see an international mixed crew landing on Mars in my lifetime. We've always been fascinated as human beings in what's up there. If we go back to the earliest times, we have great stone monuments like Stonehenge, that's the best known, but around the world people have built monuments to keep track of the sun and the stars and the planets, work out where they are. And today we can be disparaging about it, but back then there wasn't a difference between astronomy and astrology. It was all studying what was up there. So that early development has always fascinated me as to what our ancestors really thought about the sky. We've come a very long way in terms of breaking free from the Earth and moving upwards. It's only just over a century since the Wright brothers flew their first airplane. And in fact, that first flight at Kitty Hawk could have taken place inside the external tank of the space shuttle. It was just that very, very tiny hop. And now we can travel much further into space. I think it's not long until people, when they've got a bit of vacation coming up, are going to say, well, do I take a cruise around the Caribbean or do I go up into space? The technology is there, the private companies are coming along now, and the costs will come down. So I think it's not long before everyone, not just space cadets like myself, but everyone will be thinking about taking a trip into space.